anyway, enough, nimeteta sana, lakini let's stop shaming people now. I had told you that we have a guest in the house, and allow me to introduce her. Nasim.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very fine, and karibu sana in our studio today.
Santi.
We are so pleased to have you, and I hope we're going to have a good session together.
I do hope so.
Yes, karibu sana. Now, just for the purposes of introductions, please tell our listeners who you are, where you're from, which organization you work for.
My name is Nasi.
Yes.
I'm a psychologist by profession.
Yes.
And I also run a mental health organization called HUGS.
Yes.
So HUGS stands for Hardiness and Adds Great Success.
Yes.
So hardiness, in other words, is resilience.
Yes.
So in life, in one way or another, we all need to be resilient.
Yeah,
we
true.
all need to build kidogo like a thick skin so that we can, thrive in this life. Because again, things are tough out here.
Yeah.
People are mean.
True.
So you need to learn how to navigate through that. So that's what HUGS is. What we do is we create awareness around mental health.
Yeah.
We do so through workshops and mentorship programs.
Yes.
We also do a lot of events when it comes to mental health with the sole purpose of awareness. Yes. And our focus is also youths.
Yeah. If leo ama kesho nikipata client, yes, akihitaji psychological assistance, I can always refer them
Please
to you.
do.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, maybe you could just from a general point of view, utuambia about our topic of the day. Now, just give us a general overview of what we'll be discussing today.
The topic is environment, right?
Yes, yes.
And our mental health in relation to our environment,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So when it comes to mental wellness, environment is not just, what we think of,
Yes.
nature and everything. It's more than that.
True.
Environment can be your workplace. Environment can be you being at home, the connection you have with your friends,
Yes.
and also the connection you have with your house and your safe space.
Yes.
So that can be environment. So it's not just outside or nature, but it's also who you interact with, what you interact with, and so on. So that's what I think we'll be focusing more on today.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's true, because I'm trying to imagine most people when they hear of environment they think of nature, like environment, nature, miti, maji, nini and all, but then they forget that there is now that inner environment and all. But I think it's a very interactive topic, and I hope our listeners they learn. And remember, again, you can call, text us or WhatsApp us on 0742609574, ama you can leave a comment on our social media handles everywhere at Tonzi Radio, or if you're listening in live, make sure you're tuning in on www.tonziradio.com. Ama you can save yourself the hassle of keep going back to the website and just download the app on Google Play Store. You can find it, Tonzi Radio app, ama on Apple Store, Sikiliza Kenya app, and let's keep interacting, and I'll be really, really happy to hear from you guys katikati ya show, because we'll be reading your comments, na naona some of them zishaanza kuingia. I'm really, really glad that you guys tune in. So before we dive into the our discussion, let's take a breather break before we back.
The Bracket Show, AM to 1 p.m.
Who don't believe that where I hang out or the people I hang out with, they don't add any value to how I feel within. So maybe from a psychological point of view, you could tell us or highlight some of ways, or how do our friends and the people we surround ourselves with influence our mental health well-being. Like if I have this clique of friends I hang out with, how do they maybe improve or deteriorate my mental health? Yeah.
Okay. So first things first, these conditions are called psychosocial conditions from the term social.
Yes.
Meaning our social interactions in now for this for the purpose of this conversation, our environment
Yes.
has a very huge effect on who we turn out to be or how we turn out to be.
True.
So now I'll answer your question by giving examples. So let's say you and your friends, every time you hang out, you're always focusing on the negatives, or there's this banter that friends always throw at each other.
Yes,
There's a friendly
shades.
yes, shades. There's a friendly shades, and then there's this shade that targets your insecurities and
They're
everything.
like mockery.
Exactly. So the more these things are said to you, do you think you'll be okay?
No.
No, you'll start feeling some sort of way about yourself.
True.
You'll start now isolating kidogo. You'll start, pulling back. You won't enjoy even the company and everything. So yes, it will most definitely affect how you feel, and in the end it will always affect how you behave. There's this thing in psychology we call a cognitive triangle, which states your thoughts affect your feelings affect your behavior. So now, for instance, if my friends are constantly making me feel some type of way, inferior or
unworthy.
yes, exactly. So there's some sort of thoughts that I'll have, right? And high chances some of this thought will be most definitely negative,
Yes.
in terms of I'm not good enough. Is there some truth to what my friends are saying about me and everything? So even if you were once confident in everything, and all of a sudden people are constantly pulling you down and everything, will start questioning it.
It's true.
Right? So in the end it will start affecting how you feel about yourself as a whole.
Yeah.
Right? And even how you behave will now change. So if you are a confident person, you'll find yourself, coiling up kidogo, withdrawing and everything. You won't be able to stand up for yourself, and so on and so forth. And this will be more so if you also had some sort of self-esteem issues before. Like maybe there's certain things you're not sure about yourself, or you were struggling with and everything, and then now your friends are constantly bringing them to the limelight and everything.
Wanazi highlight
I want to highlight too, so it becomes a little bit hard on you. So as a result, the only way you can do this is learn how to draw the boundaries.
Yes.
And you can only learn how to draw boundaries, one, if you're self-aware. If I know certain conversations affect me, then I'll communicate it to my friends. Because again, there's this thing we normally do when it comes to friends, expectations. I normally say, the same way you treat your intimate relationship is the same way you should treat your friends, your friendship. In that, by this I mean, if you have certain expectations for them, communicate them.
Yes.
Right? With every relationship, we always look, the certain values you have, your negotiables, your non-negotiables and whatnot. So do you have the same for your friends? In a way that this is what I expect my friend to do, this is what I need from my friend and everything. And again, this saying of expectations are the mother of disappointment.
True.
So if you do not communicate your expectations and I do not meet your expectations, then hapo hivyo ndo unaanza kusikia tu akisema beshti ni nyoks. Exactly. But how would they have known what you wanted if you didn't communicate it? Back to no self-awareness. I cannot communicate something I don't know. I need or I want or I'm not comfortable with. So again, self-awareness is very important.
Yes.
Know what triggers you.
Yes.
Know what topics you're not comfortable with. Know what you want from your friends and everything, so that it becomes easy for you to communicate these things. And then your friend on the other end will be like, okay, I get you, but maybe I can't meet XYZ. Can we meet, can we compromise on this and that? So that at least that friendship doesn't feel like, a forced
it's a one-sided.
Exactly. And if these things are not communicated, then it breeds resentment.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've heard of frenemies.
We're friends, but I hate you.
Yes.
We're friends, but there are aspects of you that I cannot withstand, and I would tell the whole world, Miss Mpendi.
Exactly. And why do you think that happens?
I have no idea.
Those little things of communication. One day we were having a conversation. You mentioned something that maybe I'd told you in, confidence or secrecy and everything, and now you've said it, and it maybe it didn't sit well with me, and instead of me communicating it, I just let it slide. And because for you said it the first time and it's
I didn't react.
You keep on saying it, so now it seems like unanid jaribu. So now it becomes a whole problem. So I keep on, building resentment, piling it up, and then one day I explode on you and everything.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I thought we were cool, and so on. So I feel like every relationship, whether intimate, whether, just friendship and everything, you first of all need to also know, what do you want from these friends? What do I need from these friends? I feel like I know I might sound wrong or off kidogo,
No, feel
but
free.
I feel like all relationships are transactional.
Yeah.
By this I mean not necessarily money wise, but there's something you're getting out of this
It's
friendship.
true. I actually agree.
Exactly. So do you know what you're getting or what you're giving?
The value.
Do you know the value of, those friendships that you're looking for? And then again, sorry, when I talk about mental health, I digress a lot. So also when you're looking for those friendships, first of all, also understand your values.
Yes.
What are your values on a personal level? When we talk about values, it's so easy for people to throw those words of, oh, I value respect, I value honesty, but do you really know what that really means to you on a personal level? Because I was giving a talk the other day, and I asked people that question of what are their values. The topic was in attachment and relationships. So almost the whole room said respect. But then again, the question became a little bit hard when we started now defining what that respect means to people individually. In the same breath, someone said respect to them means if you respect them enough, you will give them white lies. You won't tell them anything that is going to hurt them, because now that is respect. You respect the emotions according to them. In the same room, someone else said, if you respect me enough, you'll tell me the bitter truth. Because for them, if you give them white lies, then you don't respect them. You don't respect that they can handle it and everything. But now you see, respect is one word, but when you're defining it, it becomes
everyone understands it
exactly. So now for you, do you know what your values mean to you on a personal level, so that it becomes easier when you're communicating it with your friends or when you're communicating it with your partners and everything. You tell them, this is what I want. This is, if it's respect, this is how it is. And then now for them, maybe the respect was the opposite. So now they know she can handle, the bitter truth or not. So the same thing applies to also just friendship. Understand first of all your values, what they mean to you, and then it becomes easy for you to communicate this with your friends. When we talk about communication, I always emphasize on comprehensive communication. Not just communicating for the purpose of nimesikia umeongea na mimi nataka kujibu. No, I want to understand where you're coming from. So this thing of, I'll give the same example, this thing of respect and me telling you the bitter truth, where is that coming from? I really want to understand you so that next time I don't disrespect you by hiding the truth from you. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, same on the matter of the people we surround ourselves with or the environment. Now, sometimes, if we divert attention away a little bit from now the friendships and all, now we come back to family surroundings, or the family you're born in is not the family you choose. You just naturally you find yourself there. So sometimes that environment is the toxic one, or that environment is the one that inakusonga, and sometimes some families can be those environments that we are running away from, but because we cannot detach ourselves completely from our families, we are forced to stay in their surrounding or the environment, and there's nothing we can do about it. And this in connection to people who stay in abusive relationships. So like what is it that makes people actually stay in those relationships or in those environments, knowing very well that they're not useful or valuable to them? What is it that makes people actually stay in such relationships? Yeah.
So allow me to answer that in two ways. First, as a therapist, when someone comes and says, this is my family, I cannot detach, and so what do you mean you can't? I mean, at the end of the day, I normally say your mental health should come first. What good will you be to your family if you're not psychologically okay, if you're not, fine? So there's certain boundaries. I know it's the hardest thing that you can ever do, setting boundaries with your family, more so your immediate family, your mom, your dad, your brother, it becomes really hard. But you need to do that for your own, wellness and everything. So you need to understand what is it that I'm not comfortable with when it comes to this family. When it comes to trauma, there are things we call ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Through those are experiences that you went through between the age of 1 to 18. Those traumatic experiences, either it was abuse, neglect, whatever, and then with time it builds something we call core beliefs. So core beliefs in layman's term is the glasses we use to view life with. There are certain people who see life as a scary place, people as you can't trust people and everything. So where does that come from? So high chances it comes from that. So our core beliefs are shaped by our experiences in childhood and also experiences that we get throughout life, right? So if you are in a family setup whereby you feel like there are certain things that don't sit right by you and everything, there's nothing wrong with communicating it with the parents. Again, when it comes to being assertive, most people, assertive in the sense that standing up for yourself and everything, most people confuse being assertive with being rude. You can be assertive by paying attention and putting into consideration the other person's feelings in a way that if you've kama umenikosea, instead of me kukufokea nikwambia unajua umefanya hivi na hivi na hivi, I can tell you in a nice way, in a way that you will understand where I'm coming from. When it comes to communication skills, there's something called I statements. I statements is whereby I don't come to you and tell you you've done this, you do this and that. I tell you how I feel. So I tell you I feel like when you did this XYZ, it made me feel this way. So this way I'm telling you from my point of perspective how I'm feeling. I'm not accusing you or anything, because when you start accusing people, what happens is automatically I want to defend myself because I didn't mean it there. But now if I come and tell you how I'm feeling with the I statements and everything, it becomes easier for you to listen and be like, oh okay, I see why you would feel that way, but I didn't mean it that way, and it becomes easy for you to communicate. So there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries when it comes to family. Just know how to communicate it. Do not be rude to them because you feel like it's your right, and because this Gen Zs and everything, you feel like everything you're entitled.
It's about me.
No, just learn how to communicate these needs and wants with your family. Now we go back to sticking to abusive relationships. Again, I'll communicate about trauma. When it comes to trauma, there are two things that might make, I know you've heard of Stockholm Syndrome, and also, now let me focus more on trauma bonding. So what trauma bonding is, say I'm in a relationship with someone, and he's always abusing me, either emotionally, physically, financially, whatever, right? But now every time maybe he hits me or something, he comes, gets me flowers and everything. Is like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what got over me, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh okay, you see, he loves me and everything. So you start bonding with the trauma. So you become very defensive for them. When someone comes and tells you, by the way, you in that relationship,
he knows how to apologize.
You don't even know this man. This is my man. I'm not.
You don't know him the way I know him.
Exactly. You don't know him the way I know him. So it becomes very hard. And that's why you find so many people stick with their perpetrators for so long before they actually leave, because it's not easy. It's an emotional bond that you have with this person. Another thing is, remember I mentioned something called core beliefs, right? Maybe you grew up in a family setup whereby maybe one of your parents was abusive to the other. So for you feel like this is how love should be.
Supposed to be.
I don't know if you've had this situation whereby some people say, if he doesn't hit me, then he doesn't love me. Or if she doesn't hit me or throw a tantrum, then she doesn't love me. So this also boils down to your attachment styles. How do you attach to people? What type of attachment style do you have? What type of core beliefs do you have when it comes to relationships and how you interact with people? Because that may be another reason as to why you're sticking around in that abusive relationship and everything. So these are things that you need to know from a personal perspective before moving forward.
That's beautiful. I think it is now clear to our listeners on how the friends or the people you choose to surround yourself with affect your mental health. And kama kawaida, I keep telling you guys, you can call us, text us, or WhatsApp us on 0742609574. You can leave a comment on all our social media handles, that is Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, everywhere at Tonzi Radio. And this topic has imeanza kwa heated up, and I can see the psychologist in you coming, with those big terminologies. But it's beautiful. I hope we are learning, and let's take a short break, and then we come back and discuss further.
The Bracket Show, AM to 1 p.m. on Tonzi Radio. As
Come back.
Sorry.
Karibu tena. And now we're from I hope you guys have understood whatever Nassim was talking about as far as our environment, the environments that we choose to be in, how they affect us, and before even the environment that we choose affect us, there are underlying things within us that make that environment sensitive. I remember back when we were in school, we were being told highly reactive elements can only react in an environment that is conducive for them to react. So if you have traumas from childhood, and then you're in an environment that triggers them out of you, definitely you're going to react. And now Tuki, endelea kidogo in this topic of ours. Do you have maybe personal experiences or examples of how maybe a positive environment impacted your life in a positive way, or a negative environment that maybe you once found yourself in, and in one or another you realize this environment is actually affecting my mind, or it's affecting how I feel about myself?
Okay, so maybe I'll share a positive one.
Yes.
When I graduated, I worked here for like maybe a year or so at some hospital here in Kenya.
Yes.
So I applied for a job for, I don't know if you've heard of Doctors Without Borders. So
Yes.
So
Médecins Sans Frontières.
Yes. So I got a job to go work at a camp, a refugee camp outside the country.
Yes.
I was really excited because that meant like amazing opportunities and everything. So I left the hospital I was working in here. There's this thing of giving notice and also helping your patients transition. So I didn't have enough time to do all that. So nilitoka tu after a good opportunity and everything. So I've prepared, gotten my new passport. Ile time the new passport was being,
introduced.
Yes. So I was ready to travel. I moved out from where I used to stay, moved my things back home because I'm traveling. So a week, like on a Tuesday, and I was to travel on a Friday and I was to travel on a Thursday, start work on Monday. I get a call from now my new, employers, and they're like, oh, so we can't take you in because there was an incident in the refugee camp and the sponsors pulled out, meaning the guys that were supposed to pay us were no longer on board. So now job imeenda hivyo. So I was very stressed, to be honest.
I can imagine.
So staying at home was, at that period, was the hardest thing ever. I was really depressed. I went to one of the best universities and really expensive universities, and I felt like my parents wasted that. I felt, every time I'd wake up and see I'm home without a job, so it was really hard for me. And then my mom, the good thing is she noticed it and she was like, do you have a place you can just go for a day, a week or so, just to chill
To
and
de-roll.
Yes. I had a friend of mine, we had done psychology within the same uni.
Yeah.
She invited me over and I stayed over at her place I was to stay for like a week. So when I went, she was also going through something, so we became each other's,
Safe spaces.
Exactly. So we could vent, we could, talk and everything. And Hugs was built in that, safe space. That's how we came up with hugs, the concepts and everything. Ended up, I think we even moved in together for like a few months, for like almost 8 months, because the environment was really conducive.
Yeah.
It was really positive. It made a huge difference to how I was viewing life and everything. We were each other's therapists in one way or another. So yes, for me that really built me, because I feel like if I hadn't, I even thank my mom for noticing and feeling like there's a need for me to just declutter the brain and everything.
Change the environment.
Yes, I feel like things would have been, I would have never maybe started hugs. Like through starting hugs, a lot of, a series of events happened before we started hugs. But I feel like if it weren't for those series of events, I don't think we would have hugs today. And the amazing thing about hugs is we have almost 30 plus, volunteers that work with us. We have psychologists, we mentor people who are just, transitioning into the outside world and everything. Because even when it comes to psychology, transitioning from uni to workplace is very hard. It's one thing to do theory, and it's another thing where you need to sit down, listen to people and everything. It's a hard transition. So we try and mentor them into the transition, because for us we didn't get that hand we needed when we were transitioning. So we were just thrown into
the world. You navigate.
So I feel like through those experiences and through that friend and the positive how positive she was and everything, it impacted me in a way that I was able to be who I am today in terms of. So if I hadn't gotten that, maybe I would have been in a very different.
I can imagine. Now, what I'm getting from this is you actually had a supportive environment. You had an environment that is there for you, and somebody who could actually know when Nasim is doing okay or when she's not okay. It's making me understand that your environment was actually that safe space and supportive. Now, sometimes I believe that as we are picking our friends and all, is it advisable to always look out for ourselves? Ilea, I'm keeping you in my circle because I've seen values that you have, and I know that those values, they'll add value to me too, so I'm keeping you close. The way we just choose random friends, or there are those people who don't handpick their friends, and there are those who are very calm. I'm very vigilant, handpicking. We can be acquaintances, we can know each other and all, but when it comes to now that safe space of mine, there are just a few people around there. So my question is, how do you cultivate that positive environment from your immediate peers or your immediate people? How do you make that environment in kama a safe landing? If you go outside, the dunia kutandike, just blow on you, you can always come back and feel I'm glad I created this place, or I'm glad I'm part of this space. How do you cultivate that environment, that positive environment for yourself? So
first things first, there's nothing wrong with you handpicking your friends, because there's also a reason as to why they're having you as a friend. To remember what I started by mentioning, I feel like friendships are more of transactional, not just when it comes to money, but what values am I getting from this? Because again, remember, if you stick around with people for so long, you start borrowing some of their traits. You start borrowing,
you absorb them.
Exactly. So what do you want to absorb from your friends? So there's nothing wrong with that. And always say, in your circle of friends, always know there's nothing wrong with having friends for just turn up. Mabeshte tu ashere, mabeshte tu najua. When it's something serious, I can never go to those friends. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you know again, boundaries and everything. Our ni mabeshte tu, nikitaka vacation, nikitaka, like they're for good times and everything. And then there's nothing wrong with having friends for when you're going through it
Seriousness.
and everything. So if I want, for me, I have a group of friends that, first of all, for us, before we vent to each other, we ask for consent. Are you in a
Are you
mental
not
capacity
yeah.
to take up my venting or not? And if they say no, I understand, because again, I'm not entitled to their time and everything.
Yes.
So I totally understand, because I know they're always there for me and everything. So this is why I was telling you, expectations, again, communicate these things with your friends prior. So I have friends I can call when I just want someone to give me the bitter truth, in the sense that wataniambia hapa hivi ndio umekosea or something. Or when I want someone to side with me, I know what friend to call and will vent and say how the other person is on the wrong. Well, I know when I want to be the Lulu and everything. I know exactly. I know a friend that I can call for that, and they'll help me vent out and everything, and I'll feel good. But at the end of the day, I'll go back to the one that is more critical and be okay, hapo hivyo pia ulikuwa umekosea or something. And I understand that. So for you, do you have such friends? So there's nothing wrong with picking your friends. And again, I always advise people, when you're picking friends, pick different generations too. Pick a friend in your generation, pick a friend who's younger than you, and pick a friend who's older than you, because again, the perspectives that these people have is very different. An older friend will help you understand when it comes to investments, when it comes to building, when it comes to certain things that maybe you're not even paying attention to. Your age mate will relate with some of the things that you're going through. A younger friend will help you see what are these young people thinking and everything. So you'll have all worlds around you and everything. I'm not saying that you lazima need those tight friends, but have such people in your circle that you can run to. Let's say when I'm going to talk to Gen Zs, I always consult a friend of mine and ask them, okay, so what is the generation? Yes, what are you guys going through? What are some of the issues that are affecting you and everything? What topics do you think I should cover more and everything? Because those topics will be very different from my generational topics and everything. So that helps a lot in terms of also research and everything. So you get to understand things differently.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with handpicking your friends.
Now, still on the same. Now, are there, specific red flags that unaizangalia, you're like, these are signs that actually this environment is impacting me negatively? What are some of these red flags that you can, watch out for? Ilea, when do Ilea, it's a wake-up call. Ilea, this environment of yours is already impacting your mental health negatively. What are those red flags that we should watch out for?
So one red flag that I'll mention is communication. So communication, it doesn't matter if we're in friendship, if we're in a work, acquaintance, relationship or whatever. Communication is very important. How do you communicate to people? I mean, yes, maybe nimekukosea, but that doesn't give you the right to just come and talk to me anyhow you want and everything. So communication is very important. And if you realize there's a certain way that people talk to you and doesn't sit right with you, then that's one big red flag. And again, red flags are very, I want to say, subjective, depending on the person, because maybe what you might call a red flag, kwa mingine it's a very big green flag, right?
Yes.
So red flag is also boils down to your needs and wants. How well do you understand yourself? What do you want? What sits well with you? What doesn't sit well with you? So again, self-awareness. When you understand that aspect of this is who I am, this is what I find right, and this, I have situations whereby a friend called another friend and they were like, oh, I've got you something, go pick it at a such and such mall. And this other friend felt very offended because they were like, how do you just throw that on me? When you think I didn't have anything else during the whole day? And someone else would have been like, oh, I like such things. I know that's really amazing. So you see, it's very different. So again, it all boils down to you as an individual. What do you really understand yourself in one way or another? And then these things, communicate them with your friends and everything. So red flags, I would honestly tell you, the main big ones is just communication and how people talk to each other. But other than that, the rest are very subjective. Depending on what you want, individual, who you are, and what sits right with you and what doesn't sit right.
Yeah, because I remember there is this statement that my high school English teacher used to say, you have to cultivate your indivisible minimums. You have to have those things that unasema I can't go below this. I can't take this from maybe a relationship or a friendship. I think that's why red flags are very subjective. I think you're very right saying that, because I'm trying to imagine there are people who find some things red flags, and there are people who are very okay with them. There are those who can actually say, if you don't reply to my text in the next 5 minutes, hiyo ni red flag.
Exactly.
Na kuna ule mwenye they don't even mind you taking 4 days as long as wanajua you will respond to it. So I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. And for our listeners, I hope munajua red flags zenu, unajua hii tunaweza ipaint kidogo ikwe pink, you know, we dilute the redness, but I hope we are learning, and you know, what can I say? I'm also learning. I'm
Yes.
really learning here.
And
So,
also, just sorry to cut you short,
Yeah.
when it comes to self-awareness, also understand what soothes your anxiety.
Yeah.
Because we all get anxious in one way or another. There's that thing that doesn't sit well with us.
Yeah.
So do you know what soothes yours? Right? So I'll give the same example umepatia na ya text. So maybe I've called someone or I've texted them and they're taking so long to reply. So do I know what would soothe that? So for instance, maybe for me and my partner, we'd say, if I call you and you don't, you're busy, you can't reply, make sure the day doesn't end without you calling me back. So whatever happens, even if I'm having some sort of anxiety, mbona ajani call or whatever, at the back of my mind I know he'll
day
call,
won't
the
end.
day won't end without them calling me. So I won't start jumping into conclusions and whatnot. So it's also very important to know what is this thing that soothes your anxious
Yeah.
attachment when it comes to relationship, when it comes to friendships and everything, so that you don't keep on panicking or checking your phone or whatever.
Yeah. Now, what happens when you know, we have insecurities as human beings, especially sisi wanawake, after being in a series of maybe situations that have maybe broken our trust or what, there are those things in itwanga survival mechanisms that we develop by ourselves. So when do we know that we are generating them from, you know, an aware point of view, they're just clouded by our previous maybe circumstances or situations? How can we tell that actually I'm being aware that this for me is a no-go zone? It is not subjective to maybe what I've gone through or whatever I have been, you know, experiencing before, but this is situational. This specific situation that is happening is what that you know, warrants this reaction from me, and not the insecurities that I've been carrying with me my whole life.
I like the way you're insisting this specific situation. It has nothing to do with Yes. We all have different coping mechanisms.
Yes.
That, you know, we've got with ourselves. So there's some that are positive and there's some that are negative.
Yes.
But as much as you're saying it's just this situation, it has nothing to do with the rest.
It always
they're all
connected.
interconnected. When it comes to therapy, there are different types of therapy. I know you've heard of CBT, cognitive behavioral, cognitive behavioral therapy. When maybe something has to do, you need to change your mindset and everything. And then there's something called psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is where now we go back to where the main issue was. Sorry if I am digressing kidogo.
It's okay.
But I feel like it will help you understand this better. So when you come to me with attachment issues, we'll do something called tracing your anxious attachment. So we'll do it in a 3-decade period. If you're now 30 years, if you're 20 years, we'll do it in a 2-decade series. So from age 1 to 10, 10 to 20, or 20 to 30. Between those decades, when is the first time you remember feeling uncomfortable in a relationship? Maybe you remember at age 5, you tried talking to your parents, maybe they shushed you or whatever, that was uncomfortable for you. So we trace all those periods every year, and then now we start seeing, is there any relevance to how you are right now? So as much as you're saying it has nothing to do with everything else, it's just the situation, then why is this situation triggering you? If it's now fresh, why is it triggering you that much? And why are you behaving almost similar to how you've been behaving to other situations. So all these things are interconnected in one way or another.
So it's okay to say that whoever we are, or rather how we react to things as adults, in one or another, it is connected to previous patterns, previous cycles.
There's always a pattern to it. There's no way you would just wake up and behave extremely different or out of
character.
Even if you behave out of character, it's been a build up to you getting out of character.
Yeah.
So there has to be a train of series that has
Umekuwa
happened.
ukitusuppress,
Yes, and the
tukitrigger.
worst thing you can ever do is those things of suppressing. Kufungia. The more una suppress, the more inashinda ikibwell up. So one day una erupt.
Unalipuka.
Yes, and when it comes to these things, I know you've heard of things like transference and projection, you know, exactly. So unapata hata unalipukia mtu hata hajakukosea.
Hajakukosea.
Exactly. Kumbe kitu umekuwa ukibeba all
Miaka
along.
yote.
So it's not just about that one situation. It's a pattern of things, and that's why your self-awareness is it's very, very
Important.
And we can keep on saying about self-awareness, but if you can be all self-aware that you want, but if you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to
work on
start
those,
working on it, then you'll always be, you know what you're doing, but you're not ready to transition and everything. I don't know if that answered the
Yes,
question.
it does. Now, there's somebody who says that wasichana ni kama kikombe ya maji. They keep taking up things, they take things, and then kakitu kadogo katamfanya alipuke, kitu yenye in other situations they'd never erupt the way they've erupted or reacted, but simply because they've been, suppressing things. And it's not just for girls only, even men. Sometimes utaona mse amekugonga ngumi simply because you said something to them, and normally you would say that you would say that they won't react, they won't do anything, but this specific day you say that thing and it just blows them away, and they react. I think it now makes sense to me. So it is all connected.
It is. And also, again, let me give you another different example of maybe an abusive relationship. So maybe you and your person, every time mna argue, the first thing that comes to your mind is iki kimtu siku moja nitakuja kukigonga or something. But you don't act on it, you just think it. So what happens is, the more you argue, the thought comes and then you suppress it. You don't address, why is it that every time I'm arguing with so and so, the first thing that comes to the first thing that comes to mind is either I hit him or throw something at them or whatever. If you don't address that, as a human being, we have something called conscious and subconscious. So that thing moves to your subconscious. Subconscious, in other term, we call it autopilot. It's what controls your yawning. It's what controls your blinking. You don't think achani blink sahi. It just happens, right? So this thought has been happening to you for so long. You've never addressed why you're doing this. So it sinks to your subconscious. That's why you find the first time someone hits someone, they're even shocked. They're like, oh my God, I don't know what got over me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hit you. It didn't just happen. They've always thought of doing this. Leo tu ndo ime-actualize. Na pia wao imewapata in, surprise and everything. So like I said, these are things that are always happening within you. So you just need to pay more attention to your thoughts, yourself, and everything.
So keep sending in your comments, keep interacting with us on 0742609574, ama leave a comment on our social media handles, and we are going to get back to them later on in the show.
Bracket Show, AM to 1 p.m. on Tunzi Radio, as sweet as it is.
Some days you feel like the world is on fire. Some days you feel like your spirit won't fly. Some days you wake up and you don't feel like you wanna change what you don't see. But some days you feel like you're floating up high. So how about you try this time? Lifting up your head and sing out. Look within, I see there's more inside of me. Just lift up your voice and say, be just shining forth. 'Cause I know that you think of surviving, but you sleep and wake up and don't feel like fighting. But there's space in your soul to keep wanting more, to desire to soar. Some days you know that their words may mean nothing. So how about you try this time? Lifting up your head and say, what more than I see, the truth inside of me. So lift up your voice and say,
Karibuni sana, welcome back. I hope you're learning. I hope you are, at least you're picking up something. After this, at least you'd make better choices in your environment, and probably you will understand that environment see greeneries too, na manyasi, na rivers, but it is also your inner environment, your inside. Now, still talking about this, social media is really playing a huge role. Earlier on in the show, I was telling people how that Mtumba guy was really shamed on social media for coming out and saying how the partner alimu assaults, break things in the house, and people are really throwing a lot of shade on him. They were really what can I say, I think people have really normalized shaming victims, especially if the victim is a man. They've really normalized it, gender-based violence, whereby the ladies wana hurumiwa, they're given sympathy, they are supported. But when a boy child comes, inafeel ni kama they don't have a right to actually talk about it. So maybe you could tell us which roles social media and online interactions shape our mental health. It can be the positive way or negative. Just how does social media and online interactions affect or impact our mental health?
So online, there's a lot of amazing things that happen online that I can't, disagree on. But I feel like we all need once in a while to unplug.
Yes.
There's also a lot of, as much as there's a lot of positivity, there's also a lot of negativity that's going around social media. If it's not someone being bullied, then it's you comparing yourself with how amazing other people's lives are and everything. And it makes you feel like you're not content with whatever, you're having in your life and everything. And that also now starts formulating this aspect of stress. You feel like, I'll give you an example. If I go online and see someone we graduated with is driving maybe a V8 or is, doing vacations at Maldives and everything, I'll start asking myself, am I not doing enough? Yes, am I not doing enough and everything? And maybe you're doing more than enough in your own capacity. So you start that aspect of comparison, and that's why you're saying our generation say we are so depressed.
Yes. True.
Generation ya wazazi wetu hawakuwa na hiyo comparison and everything. Walikuwa na move to a move. Whatever is working on your end, you try and nurture it and everything. So that's one way of it. The other thing is bullying. Especially these celebrities. We are having an event whereby we're trying to target creatives. Their life is out there. So anything small you do, people will have something to say
about
whether
it.
Positive, majority of them being negative and everything. And so it's very important to create a thick skin.
Yes.
Know what is building you, know what's not building you. We always say, understand your circle of control. What can you control, what can't you control? You can definitely not control what people say or what people think about you, but you can control how you see yourself. You can control the thoughts that you feed yourself and everything. So focus on that little control that you have for yourself. So yes, and also learn to unplug. si lazima 24/7 ukwe online. Unaweza sema hii mwezi I'll just unplug and focus on other things other than, you know, social media. If it's too negative and everything, I'll just focus on the positive and unplug kidogo. So once, I know it's very addictive, but learn to unplug from social media once in a while.
Yeah. And now, from the little knowledge of IT that I have, we were told that, you know, social media brings up, or rather you get prompts on internet depending on your search history, the things that you frequently interact with. Your search engine has a way of bringing you more of that. So definitely prompts zenye zinakuja kwa what's it called, kwa timeline yako, it's mostly the things that you interact with, the things that you search, the things that you like and all. So would it right to say that we actually choose the kind of content and the kind of environment that even on social media we frequently go to or interact with? Because now I realized something when I joined TikTok, I think a few months ago, I think it's like 6 months or something, the modern spirituality things, and like it was on the rise, everyone talking about empaths, I don't know, light walkers, you know, all those stories. So I used to get a lot of those, and then tarot readers, blah blah blah. Then I started, it's like filtering the content that I was getting, filtering the pages that I like, the pages that I interact with, and then right now I really get less of those suggestions or whatever. So would it be right to say we actually choose the kind of content that pops up on our social media platforms?
So yes and no. Fine, you can filter some of the pages you follow, the things, you know, you search and everything.
Yeah.
But then again, let's say I go online in one of the blogs, I see something, I screenshot, I come put it on my status.
Yes.
Of course
You will see it,
right?
yeah.
So the answer to that is yes and no. Yes, majority of it in terms of the search engines, whatever it is that you're searching and everything, yes. But then again, you
cannot control the whole of
social media, and that's what I'm saying. It's very important to decide hii wiki sitaki social media, ama hii mwezi hata sitalipia internet, nitakaa tu na news and that's it. Or even at times there's nothing wrong with also filtering news if it's too much negativity in the news and everything. So yes, you can filter out some of these things, but you can't control what other people are doing. So if I screenshot and post it on my status, does that mean you will
pass it without kuiona?
Nata huku unajua na post nini, so of course utaiona in one way or another. So yeah, so I feel like dawa ya hiyo ni ku unplug once in a while.
Now, still on the same thing, there is this thing of addiction. Just like any other addiction, social media pia has its own a form of addiction. You know, the way you know, there are times people say manze nimejaribu kutoka social media ama staying without WhatsApp but nashindwa. I have tried kuna ile inaitwangwa what's it called, I'm trying to look for a withdrawal symptoms whereby umeamua WhatsApp imekuwa too toxic for me, blah blah blah, let me delete it. You delete it today, and then that time you used to spend on it inakuwa free time, so you find yourself you cannot survive without it. So if you want to declutter from social media, for example, like you've said, what other options would you do that won't make you, you know, long to be back to it without, you know, that self-discipline? How can you cultivate it?
So I'll answer that with addiction.
Yes.
So first things first, I feel we abuse the term addiction. Anything small that you really like, we feel like I'm addicted to this. Addiction, we classify something as an addiction when you can't go about your day to day without that thing. So if it's substance use, you can't even wash your dishes without that substance. You can't go to work without that substance and everything. So if it's your phone or social media, you feel like I can't do XYZ without having her first of all gone online or whatever, then that becomes a problem where you feel like you can't function without that thing. So that's most definitely an addiction. And when you start dealing with addiction, one, you need to find a healthy replacement of that addiction. Because again, like you said, no, nimeacha WhatsApp. So what is replacing that time? So if there's nothing replacing that time, you start longing for it. You start feeling now
Withdrawing.
in quotes the withdrawals and everything, and you feel like, oh my god, there's something missing. So do you have a proper replacement for it? When I say proper, I mean positive replacement for it. So instead of doing social media, maybe you can say this, I'll pick up book and read or whatever. So instead of this, you're using this. So always find a replacement, to a healthy one. Let me emphasize on a healthy replacement to it. Yeah,
there's somebody who once said, it's okay, who once said that if you lose something, or if you've decided to remove something in your life, pick up a new hobby. I don't know how that works, but I think sometimes it's good, usitoe tu kitu kwa maisha yako and then you stay hanging there. Wanasemanga kitakuramba.
And then also gradual, gradually you avoid it gradually. See, you're like, I'm done. Pole pole too. The hours you spend on it, you can say, I'll reduce the hours I spend on it. So instead of hours, I'll start using it every other day. Instead of every other day, I'll use it every other week. Instead of every other week, every other month. And the time when I realize I don't even miss it. I didn't even know it was there or not. Yeah,
that's beautiful. So keep interacting with us. Call, text, WhatsApp. Also reach out on our social media handles. And yes, we continue learning together.
The Bracket Show, 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Tunzi Radio, as sweet as it is.
When I say she get it from her mom.
People who dismiss mental health as because I think our generation has made us understand that there are two types of people. Actually, not two types. There are so many types of people, but let me focus on two types of people. There are those who have no idea what happens in the mental health world. Like wanajuanga tu hawa ni attention seekers. There are literally people who believe that mental health is not as serious as it is. In fact, I remember one of my lecturers aliniulizanga ati, do you think mental health talks and awareness is something that is here to last? Ama one day everyone will know about it and then it will lose its relevance. Nikamwambia, I don't think it's something that is coming to pass, or it's something that itapotea one day, because people are born and new issues are arising, and already where we are, there are people who have not yet mastered how to incorporate mental health in their daily life. Nikamwambia, just as physical health, it's an issue that magonjwa mapya yanakuja, new cases, diagnosis, hizo vitu zote. The same in the mental health, kuna watu, even the people who are helping us cope with our mental health, they also need people to actually help them cope with theirs. So it's a continuous cycle.
Great.
Yeah, so do you think at some point kila mtu ata-embrace mental health?
Well, I really hope tutafika point whereby everyone pays attention to mental health, like regards mental health as an honest condition, like as a real condition. So first things first, I feel like there's something called DSM.
Yes.
DSM is like the Bible of psychiatrists and psychologists. That's where all the diagnostic, cases are there. Say tuko 5. Meaning inaendelea. Na pia kwa hiyo 5, kuna certain conditions that were not in the DSM, but now they're being added to the DSM. So hizi ni vitu as long as we're human beings and we interact with each other and we're evolving and everything, hizi vitu zitakuwa tu zitaendelea kuongezewa. So maybe what we need to do is now start paying more attention to our mental health. Just the other day, during COVID period, now post-COVID, after now COVID and everything, That's when insurance started catering for mental health. Mental health was not in insurance. It was not covered in the insurance. And hizo madawa ni expensive. Therapy yenyewe ni very expensive. But now we're starting to embrace that. So my hope is we get to a point whereby mental health is considered as a condition like any other, like cancer, like malaria and everything, and people start paying attention to it. And there's nothing wrong with creating advocacy to a point whereby everyone now understands mental health. And also, when you talk about mental health, it's my prayer that these services will be accessible to majority of the population.
Yes.
Because we'll find ukienda mashinani here in Nairobi, we are talking about mental health. We are, watu wanaenda online wanaongea and everything. But ushago, people are still like uko mashinani kabisa, people are still attributing some of these mental health conditions to spirituality, majini and everything. And there's nothing wrong with being spiritual. I normally say you can have spirituality and you can also seek professional help. Ikikuja kwa cancer, people don't say ni mapepo na katutenda kivo. Exactly. And the worst thing about mental health is your brain controls everything. I don't know if you knew this. I normally give this example, but it's kidogo dark, but it helps people understand. Your brain is the only organ that you can't get a transplant or, so if you get to an accident, God forbid, and you get like a brain injury or something, you're clinically diagnosed dead. Your brain is what tells your heart to beat. Your brain is what makes you see me. It's what makes you know this is real, this is not. So if there's something wrong with it, can you imagine your life? Unaona tu vitu haziko, but unaziona, and then you're telling someone and they're like, it's not there. Most people with schizophrenia, most people feel they just see them, but these people can actually even interact with them. They can touch these people. The same conversation you're having and everything.
They can have with them.
Think of it this way. When you're asleep, I feel like this is the best example. When you're asleep and you're dreaming, at times you dream something that is so surreal that you feel like it happened. The only difference is you'll wake up and you realize it wasn't real. So if you're running in your dream, ile kuchoka ya kukimbia and everything, you're feeling it, right? But you'll wake up and know it wasn't happening. But now these people, they never wake up. When it's now the psychotic aspect of it. So
the way of life.
Exactly. So can you imagine how amazing your brain is?
Now, ebu elaborate kidogo on schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Yes, that one. Is it the same as kuchizi?
So, schizophrenia is what people call kuchizi, ama mwenda. Yes, so that's it. And it changes. There's something we call insight. Insight, you are aware of what's happening. You're hosting Nasim is here, this is real, this is not. But people with schizophrenia, they don't have that. And schizophrenia has different categories to it too, so it also depends. And the only reason unonagasewa na ukota makaratasi soko or something is because maybe they didn't get proper treatment that they needed and everything. So if with proper treatment, we have CEOs who have schizophrenia and they're still running companies and everything. As much as they'll have low days and everything, they'll go back to their productivity and everything, being productive citizens and so on. So mental health is not like the end of the world if you're having a mental health issue or condition. All you need is just to know how to manage it and follow through with what your doctors tell you and everything.
I think we should have more sessions where we tackle these issues one by one.
Really do.
Like we just set us a day to dissect what schizophrenia is. Just talk about it, because I think one of the things that people are still ignorant about mental health is because wanaonanga tu the big terminologies and they just give up. That's too much. Wakisikia ukianza kuongelea sijui bulimia, anorexia, they're like, those are they're new words. I cannot.
Mashida za
wazungu. But then when you start seeing that actually these things are happening, because the other day, I think today morning, I woke up to some post whereby some guy was he was killed in US by cops and stuff. He wasn't literally killed, but he was a law offender. Then he was tied on some chair, blah blah, then akabrutalizwa tu venye anabrutalizwa, then akakufa in the process. And then the family was compensated 1.2 billion for that, because first of all he was wrongly convicted, and then he died in the process. And then later on it came to be known that this guy was actually suffering from a mental health illness. Like, he always sometimes he'd have those trances, and he would just do or say things that could get him in trouble. So I'm trying to imagine kama hadi watu wa states they can make such mistakes to, you know, wrongfully convict someone until inafika mahali they die. How many people kwanza hii Kenya yetu wenye they actually accuse people of doing things, now maybe it's from a mental health perspective, you know. We don't understand how many people, because there is a lady who normally talks about murder crimes or serial killer kind of stories. Now, there was this era in our life, we weren't born, of course, in the 1800s, kulikuanga the highest rise of serial killers. Now, most of them, because she would talk about their childhood upbringing and all, they're actually people who get brain injuries and it affects their mental health. That is something nimekwanga nikijambia, I'll ask a psychologist. Please tell me, how does that happen?
So, in that context, more so when it comes to, you know, serial killers and everything, we have two things, a psychopath and a sociopath. The difference is the symptoms are all the same, whereby, let me use layman's term, their humanity is switched off, so they don't have empathy.
Yes.
So that's why it's easy for someone to kill without feeling some type
They
of
actually
way.
enjoy
Yes.
it.
So for a psychopath, the symptoms, you see them when they're young, you know, early on. So for a sociopath, this is where I'll give an example of, I don't know if you remember Onyancha.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you had
That
people
even
say,
sent chills in my body.
you had people say, alikuwa mtoto mzuri, we don't know what happened after uni and everything. So that means it's something social that triggered his, switched him, right? Maybe something happened to him that changed in terms of him having empathy and everything. So that's just the main difference when it comes to those people who don't have empathy. It's either you're a psychopath whereby you started from a young age, and they start small, like kuwa vifaranga, paka, blah blah blah. So
Panya, they actually dissect it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I actually had a patient who was 8, I think. Yeah. But now the good thing about this is once it's noticed earlier, you get proper treatment, and the treatment for it also involves medication, not just therapy. So also a psychiatrist will be involved.
Yeah.
You get medication for it, and this medication you take for life.
Oh.
The minute you abscond, but not for life at every day, you can be told to abscond you can be told to stop the medication for like a month or 2, but get back on them maybe on 20th. So if you get back on them on 25th, then the symptoms will have come back.
Yeah. Now, under the same, how can we establish boundaries and choose healthier social environments to improve our mental health? Like, how can we, choose? For example, there are people who assume that clubbing is a negative environment for anyone to be there. There are people who assume that healthy environments in the nature, maybe where hakuna noise, it's just natural sound. There are people who assume that just keeping it yourself, maybe staying a day in your room to just do your stuff, that's safe. So how can we, choose, or rather, how do we know that this environment can be healthy for somebody and not healthy for the other? This environment is generally not healthy for everyone. Like, how do you go around that ideology?
Allow me to answer it in a different way.
Yeah.
when it comes to coping mechanisms, there's certain things we call mindfulness exercises, right? So the same way I would I would tell you to use breathing exercise as a coping mechanism to maybe anxiety, to maybe insomnia or whatever. Whatever breathing mechanism will work for you may not work for the other person.
Yes.
Maybe I'll tell you to use 4-7-8 breathing exercise. Now, that one works best when you're about to go to sleep, inakusaidia kulala. But for someone else, it works best when they have anxiety. But for someone else, it doesn't work completely. I tell you, use square breathing exercise. For you, that one works perfectly for everything. So you see, we're all different. We are all generally different, right? So when it comes to knowing what works best for you and everything, and normally tell people, you can start small by creating something we call creating a joy list. A joy list is something as small as what brings you joy, right? It can be watching a movie, it can be going out, it can be doing this and that. So once you create that joy list, now look into your joy list and see what are the positive, coping mechanisms and what are the negative. And the only way you can know what is positive and negative is going through the pros and cons. What are the pros of you going out? Clubbing? What are the cons of you going out clubbing? Does the cons outweigh the pros? So if the cons outweigh the pros, then this thing should come out of my joy list because it's not doing me any good, it's doing me more of harm. So ni kujita tu mkutano, kukaa chini na yourself and figuring out what are the pros and cons of my joy activities. So the same thing, labda ukiona clubbing, the cons nyingi ni kulewa. Can I turn up without drinking? Maybe if I turn out, it's doing something to my spirituality. Maybe I'm not able to, be more spiritual and everything. Then you wait and be like, okay, I need this more than this. So it's just a matter of sitting with yourself down and seeing what cons and pros are there and what outweighs it. But before you do that, create that joy list, a list of things that bring you joy. And it comes in handy on all days that you also feel meh or you feel depressed or anything. You can easily check into your list and see what can I do as of now.
Now, there is this ideology that says every individual is a compact being, and every coping mechanism is within you. You just need somebody to highlight it.
Exactly.
It's actually true.
It is.
Oh.
We all know what works for us. It's just that, let me tell you, the work of a therapist is very easy. You have all the answers in you. Like even when you go to someone, not even just a therapist, but as a friend, you have maybe a dilemma. You already know what you want to do. Right?
Yeah.
You just need to hear it from another person. And what
confirmation.
Yes, but now what also therapists do is we don't tell you what to do. We bring out what exactly you want to do from you. Like we don't tell you, go do this and that. At the end of it all, you realize, oh, actually, Mimi, this was what I wanted all along. So it's not even about, it's just a matter of highlighting it and bringing it out from you. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yes.
So let me try to break this down, especially for the purposes of our listeners. So for example, if I have maybe an issue that is disturbing me and all, it is possible that if I am really self-aware, if I know myself vizuri, I can actually arrive to the answers. And that won't be, watu wenye wanaji self-diagnosing yanasema I am depressed. And, kuna wale watu wenye they self-diagnose themselves, I'm depressed. I actually have a friend mwenye aliji self-diagnose akasema he's bipolar. So I try to understand, when do you know that you actually you're self-diagnosing yourself from awareness or kujijua, ama when you're doing it right? How do you know that you're acting from your natural compact creation, whereby I know myself, I know that ABCD works for me or ABCD doesn't work for me, so I will pick D because D works for me, or I'll pick A because in this circumstance it's the one that works for me? How do you know that you're not self-diagnosing yourself but you're acting from a point of awareness?
So first of all, I feel like so many people do that, and depression, anxiety, stress are the most abused terms out there.
Yes.
Any small inconvenience, I'm depressed.
Yes.
Do you know, for you to be clinically diagnosed with depression, you need to have gone through certain emotions for a period of 2 weeks consecutively. 2 weeks. So siku moja tu umefeel
A bad day.
I am depressed. We abuse those terms a
Yes.
lot. But it's also important to know, when are you off? What is off with you? I feel like you're the only one who knows you best.
Yeah.
Again, allow me to whatever kidogo. When it comes to mental self-awareness,
Yes.
there's something we call Johari window. So the Johari window states, for you to fully know yourself well, think of it this way: when you're walking, you don't know how you walk until someone comes and tells you whether you walk like a duck or you have a bounce to it. And then you're self-aware and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, there's some kidogo, I'm either crab walking or whatever, but all along you thought you were walking okay. So this is what the Johari window does. It has 4 windows. One is the known. Known is what I know about you and what you know about me. So everyone knows these things about you. You are a radio presenter. Most people know that and everything, right? So the other window is the hidden window. These are things that we hide from people, that we know about ourselves and we don't want people to know about them. So for instance, maybe your parents don't know you turn up, right? So you're hiding that from them. So in that window, it's not for you to disclose, but it's for you to understand why you're hiding these things from your parents. Not for you to tell them, but for you to really understand why.
The reason behind
Am I hiding this because I know it's the wrong things I'm doing? Am I hiding it because I'm embarrassed? They raised me better. Why exactly am I hiding it? So you are aware of those hidden things and why you're hiding them. The other window is the blind window. These are things that other people see in us, but we don't see it. I normally give an example of, maybe every day ukitoka job, you either take a glass of wine to unwind. So for you, every day you're doing it, but you're just unwinding. It's not like you're addicted to it and everything. But then again, your friends start telling you, oh, by the way, we think you're addicted. And you get very angry when they mention that. So this means you need to pay attention to that. Are you really addicted to it, as they're saying? Not just to conform to it, but to see for yourself if it's true. And if you are addicted to it, are you ready to get the help that you need for it? And then the last window is the unknown window, where this is where your talents fall in, your abilities fall in, your skills fall in. Maybe you've always wanted to try a new language, you go study it and see if you're good at it. A new cooking, recipe, you try it and see if you're good at it. So those Johari window gives you a whole 360 dimension of you bettering yourself and knowing yourself in a better perspective. Now back to the question that you had asked. So all these things fall under that one concept of how well are you aware of yourself, and the things that you need, the way you move, the way you interact with people and everything. I don't know if that answered your question.
It has, and I think it has left me speechless because it makes me understand, there are actually people, you interact with people and then you understand, oh, there are actually people who do these things and they think that is their way of life, but they do not understand that their way of life is actually abuse to themselves. Their way of thinking, there are people who can take abuse for a very long time. And when you tell them, kwani hauoni you're being abused here, they'll be like, I can take I can take it. I can still take it. So I'm always left wondering, when should you be, somebody take that responsibility and call you up and say, it is time you realize that you have to get out of that environment.
But now you see, you can't force people to. It needs to come from them. Even when it comes to therapy, I don't take clients that are forced on me. Clients that are forced, ama wazazi wamesema lazima uende therapy. It won't work. You'll just waste your money and nothing will change. So any change, any small change needs to come from that person. This person needs to sit down and jambe enyewe,
I need this.
So for instance, what you're saying, hauoni, unabuziwa or whatever, it means that is a blind area for them. They don't see it that way. So they need to call themselves down and see, is there some truth to what these people are saying? And if there are, what do I need to change? What do I need to work on? Where do I get that help? How do I go about it? And so on and so forth. So change comes from
You accept.
you can never, the more you force people to change, the more they pull back, the more they insist on it and everything. You can mention it and be like, hey bro, I feel like you need help, but you can't force them to
Yeah,
get
you cannot
help.
force it on
You
them.
can't force it on them. And the same thing with self-diagnosing. I feel like people need to stop doing that.
Yes,
If you feel like there's something off and you suspect XYZ, there are certain conditions that you can self-diagnose, like PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. That one is for women. Most women experience it, and sadly they don't know they're going through it. It's like, I call it PMS on steroid. That one you can self-diagnose. Be like, okay, it happens a week before your menses, a week during your menses, and a week after your menses. So it can happen your week your menses, or it can happen the week after, or the week before, or all three, whereby you feel a lot of self-loath, you really hate yourself, you feel extremely depressed,
Or emotional.
yes, emotional, you're frequently crying excessively, CPMS ya kawaida, and to some extreme cases, it comes with also suicidal ideation. So it doesn't mean that you are suicidal, it's just the hormonal changes and everything. So for that one, you can self-diagnose, but there are certain PMDD charts that you need to be filling every month to be actually correct. So as much as you can self-diagnose, there's still certain things you need to do to be extremely sure.
Yeah.
So if you are suspecting that maybe you have depression or stress or whatever, just seek the proper help and get the proper diagnosis so that you can know how to deal with it. Because at times you might feel like you're depressed. Today we're talking about environment and friends, and maybe it's just the company that you're keeping. So the minute you pull away from that company, you realize, I'm really a happy person. I'm not as depressed as I thought
used
I
to
was.
be,
So yes, ukifeel uko off, get the proper help to help you know what you need to do to cope with it, to come up with a proper treatment
Yeah.
for it.
Oh, beautiful. I'm actually left speechless. Let's go on a short break, then we come back.
The Bracket Show, AM to 1 p.m. on Tunzi Radio, as sweet as it
Yeah. Welcome back. Now, we are now at the moment where we wind up and actually give you things to go back with wherever you are. Now, human beings are social beings, yeah? We actually depend on others to, because I don't think, this famous saying, yenye nasemanga, no man is an island. You actually need another person. We work best with other people and all. So, maybe from a professional point of view, for the purposes of our listeners who probably maybe are in an environment where they don't understand whether they should be living or staying, they do not know, like, what can you advise them as far as problem solving is concerned? How can you break it down to them that you can do ABCD if you find yourself in that environment? Maybe that activates your fight inatonga
Fight or flight mode.
yeah, or freeze or whatever. Hizo zote. How do you I'm trying to put it in the most simple way, what can you tell those who are stuck in abusive environments and probably they're still whether they should leave, stay? What are some of the things that they can do to help them actually cope as far as that their mental health is concerned?
Okay, so we use the same term we've just used, problem solving. So I'll define this in terms of problem solving. So when it comes to problem solving, I like focusing on two types of problem solving.
Yes.
So one is called emotion-based problem solving. So emotion-based problem solving is whereby these are things that you can't change. I'll give an example. If I have social anxiety, I know which I do, I know very well I can't change it. Like, it's in me. But what I can do is learn how to cope with it, learn how to manage it, especially if I'm a person who does a lot of talks and everything. So understand, in my social anxiety, main issue kwapi. Is it giving speech? Is it when I'm in parties or whatever, when I'm in a group of people and so on, and then learn how to cope with it. Because if it's giving speech, do I have some mechanisms that can help me, deal with that? Maybe breathing exercises, affirmations, and whatnot. Personally, I have social anxiety, like mine is very severe, but I still give talks, right? So there are certain things I do before my talk and everything. So that is emotion based. These things, you can't change them, but you learn how to live with them. You learn how to deal with them.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. Maybe it's a family setup, right? Your mom, you're fully dependent on your parents, meaning if you leave your parents, your fees are not going to be paid. Like, as an adult, you can say, I can draw boundaries and still focus on my finances and everything. So for that, you can use the emotion based. You cannot change who your parents are and everything. You can learn how to deal with them. You can learn how to live with them in a way that is healthy for you and also healthy for them. I don't know if that makes
Yes,
sense.
it does.
So maybe either setting boundaries in terms of keeping distance, in terms of not triggering them and everything. So for you, what is not working in that area. The other type is now the problem based solution, whereby this situation needs to change. You either need to walk away from this situation, or you need to change something. All of it, like you need to change the whole situation. I'll give an example. You are in an abusive relationship. Your partner is always, maybe abusing you emotionally, physically, financially, pia. So you need to get out of there, because if it's physical, you can't say, I need to learn how to cope with the punches and everything.
Before twende mbali sana on that, I've had a point of say financial abuse. Shed some light on how can someone be abused financially?
Financial abuse is whereby, let's say maybe you and I are staying together, right? Maybe I'm your elder sister or whatever, and I know there's certain things that you need. Maybe you're a lady, you need maybe tampons and whatnot. So I withdraw the finances for that. If you don't do X, Y, Z, then I won't buy you tampons. I won't buy you, sanitary towels and whatnot. So I'm using the power I have in terms of finances to make you either submit to me or make you, whatever. So you feel, if I don't do X, Y, Z, then I won't get this money for this and that. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Yes. So, but financial abuse, he's not giving me my monthly allowance and everything. So it needs to be something that either you can't survive without, either money for shopping, food and whatnot. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then emotional abuse niyo ya kutusiwa kila saa and everything. Physical, it's where it gets physical. They are literally either punching you and everything. So like I was explaining, you need to use now the problem-based solution. But you need to change the whole environment, either to move out and go to a different state, county, or whatever. Yes.
Now we have a comment from somebody anaitwa Nicole. She's saying, my name is Nicole, listening from Langata. My adult sons are trauma bonded to their father, who they still live with. How can I help them?
Okay. So now you see, for that one, I also need the context of by trauma bonded. What exactly is a trauma, like, and so on and so forth. But I feel I would want to understand. Like, there's a lot I would want to understand. Like, what makes her feel that trauma bonded to it. I would want to have maybe like a kidogo sit down with her and the sons and see if the sons see it the same way. Because again, remember, subjectivity.
Yeah.
So, but have they tried having this? Has she tried having these conversations with the sons? And what do the sons say about this situation? Because again, you cannot, like I said, change needs to come from them. Do they really understand what is happening, or is it that maybe for her she just sees it as maybe trauma bonding? So again, there's a lot of context I would want to get before I give like a partial, thing to do to it. So I don't know if
I
they're
hope
willing to do.
Nicole could send us more
DM?
a little
Yes.
detail. Asante sana Nicole for listening from wherever. Actually kuna mtu amejibu hapa anajita Christy. She's saying this is why then in quotes, well, didn't you just leave is never an appropriate question. Survival is the brain's first instinct every
Agreed.
single time.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that is true. Now, if naona comments zimetuma ni kubwa kubwa and they're not even in form of questions, they are in form of statements, but I'll try read some of them later on. But a question I would want to ask, now in a home whereby maybe kuna wrangles between the parents and then their kids are left hapo katikati, there is this famous statement that we hear people say, usiwaingililia mambo za wazazi, baki hapo. But sometimes unajipata as a child or as an adult child, you can literally see where the sense is and where the sense is not. Now from a psychological point of view, do you think it is okay to air out your views as an adult child? You say, no mom, I think wewe ndio uko na makosa, ama dad, I think you should do ABCD ndio mambo ziendelee vizuri, ama you would just tell them kama kawaida usingililie mambo za wazazi?
So how are these issues affecting you directly? First things first.
Yeah.
And also, there's nothing wrong with pointing out, but then again, how are you pointing this out? Because remember, these are people who've been together for 50, 40 years, 30, way before you were there. You don't even know the dynamics and everything. So it goes back to how are you communicating your views again. Like what is the end goal of you communicating these views? How is their issues affecting you personally? But if you're an adult na wewe si mtoto mdogo, there's nothing wrong with just having a sit down with them and acting as the mediator and being like, okay, I feel like this has gone on for too long. What can we do to change situations and everything?
Now, I have another question here from Alan. Anasema, would you say it's possible for people to mentally and emotionally abuse you without realization?
They don't know that they're abusing you. Yes.
But they're doing it.
Yeah.
So you can actually say that.
Yes, people can... maybe the way I interact with you, I feel like I'm interacting with you the best way possible from my
I'm
end.
giving you my top.
I'm giving you my best, top layer and everything. And maybe for you're finding it as, maybe kidogo abuse. And that's where expectations and communications come in. How do you want to be loved? How do you want to be interacted with? How do you want people to interact with you and everything? Because maybe for me, I'm used to, maybe I was brought up in a family of just boys. And our show of love is tough love, whereby we banter each other, we make silly comments about each other and everything, and that's how I relate love with.
Yeah.
And then now I'm in this relationship where maybe this person was nurtured, like the love they were given was soft and calm, and then me, I'm there giving them tough love and everything,
tough love.
and they're like, yeah, no, that is not it. So communication is very important, and you can only communicate what you know and what you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I have another comment here. It's from Twanajita Mainas. Anauliza, so I have my boss and I think he abuses me with words, but I need the job and I don't know how to cope in that environment. What can I do?
I feel like such situations are the toughest because you do need the job for survival in terms of maybe you're doing a kulipia nini, but at the same time it's very toxic, so your mental health is shattered and everything. So I would want to know what is the work environment there in terms of, do they have wellness packages, do they have wellness trainings, do they have HR that listens to them? Because if there's none of that, then I feel that it's about time they started weighing and seeing, is their mental health more important? Can they get another job? Can they avoid the boss all at once and everything? So yeah.
Yeah. Now that's beautiful. Those were our comments. I hope watu wenye wametuma zao wamesaidika, na kama una feel bado hauko satisfied, feel free to DM us ama niaje. They can always reach out to you, maybe wasikie and they decide kama wata come up with a plan of their psychological issues. And now let's go on a short break, then tukirudi we are going to wind up tufunge show yetu, and well, mimi nimelearn. Kama hauja learn from wherever you are, at least mimi najua people can financially abuse you. Yeah. Come back, our faithful listeners. Now, I've been your host, Amaroy, and our guest of the day has been Nasim. She's a psychologist and a founder of Hugs. And, you know, I'm really grateful that you guys keep tuning in and we learn together. And your story, I want you guys to know where mnaweza pata Nasim, her social handles. So I'll need you to look at the camera. You tell us mahali wanaweza kupata. You tell them about your services. You know, kuna watu wana assume therapy inakuanga free ama counseling inakuanga free. So tell us kama yako pia ni free. So simply just tuambie where they can find you, your socials, where Hugs is located, how they can book appointments if at all they're interested in it. Yes.
So first you can find us online at hugs.co.ke. That is our IG, hugs.co.ke, Twitter, the same thing, Hugs Organization on YouTube, Hugs on LinkedIn, just type Hugs and then you'll find us. For booking sessions, I do offer sessions. We have different types of sessions. We have in-person sessions divided into two. I do home calls for underage kids and people old age that can't come to the office. Through the same in-person sessions, I also offer nature therapy, whereby we either go to a park and do the sessions there, depending on how comfortable the client is. We also offer online sessions. The office we use, it's in Thika Road. If you feel like Thika Road is too far, you can do online sessions. So for online sessions, they go for 1,500. For in-person sessions, they go for 3,500. For home calls, they go for 4,000 bob.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, for those who maybe feel it's a little bit too expensive, do you guys have offers? Ama, do you have times during you know, maybe a month, ama mnaweza amua we are giving free therapy this month? Do you have such sessions?
Yes, this month, being Suicide Awareness Month, we are offering free therapy sessions for suicidal cases only. By suicidal cases, I mean, allow me to just define
it's
that
okay, take your time.
So when it comes to suicide is divided into two. There's the passive suicidal ideation and there's the active suicidal ideation.
Yes.
So active, I feel you remember it.
Yeah.
Yes,
But,
yes.
For the purposes
So
of
active
listeners.
is whereby you've thought of it before and you've thought of ways to do it. So online sessions that can't work. So I'm not doing for those ones, but for passive is whereby life is so hard that for a split second you're thinking it would be better off if you're not around. So those are the cases that we're taking, and you're booking those cases through our email, which is info@hugs.co.ke, and the offer ends the end of next month. So it's just this month and next month. Already there's a few people we are doing online sessions with, so you can take advantage of that. But
Yes.
again, only suicidal cases. So we rarely have free sessions apart from when we have events, and then we can do some kidogo, you know, PFA, psychological first aid for people on ground and everything. But we can link you up with toll-free numbers for free therapy. I don't know if people knew this. KNH also offers free therapy sessions for people under the age of 25. Mathari offers the sessions at 500 bob. So for youths, if you feel like 1,500 is too much for online, you can just walk in at Mathari and get the one for 500 bob. Yes.
And now, from that, me, I'm listening like an audience. Okay. So there are people who have an ideology that going to Mathare, you
The
are
stigma that comes
yes,
with
the
it.
stigmatization that comes with actually going to a mental hospital for
Sessions.
sessions. What can you tell them so that they could feel it is okay to actually go there? Si lazima ukwe chizi ndio uende huko.
Imagine it's very okay to just go there. I actually used to work at Mathare too, so it's okay to just walk in. I feel like some of these fears, they don't come from people, they also come from us. Ourselves, whereby we feel like ama niko chizi ukweli and whatever. So I feel like just funga tu macho, you walk in. If you need the help and you can't afford, private therapy and everything, there's no shame. You don't feel ashamed when you're going to Mathare. I don't know if you know they have dental services and everything.
I have no idea.
Like it's just a hospital. You can walk in for your dentals and everything. So people don't feel ashamed kwenda kungolewa meno Mathare. So mbona unasikia ashamed kwenda sessions Mathare? You get, people don't feel ashamed when they go to KNH for other medical issues. So why would you feel ashamed walking to the psych wing for therapy sessions and everything? So
it makes me remember there is an interaction I once had with a friend. I think when you see some of your contacts wanna post something, it's like a call for help, and then you decide to DM them and you ask them, have you considered therapy, or have you considered seeing somebody? And then they're like, yeah, I actually need help. And then you ask them, can I plug you to somebody who can actually help you go through this? Nikachwa on read. So I'm trying to what can you tell such people when you wakishasikia tu wamesuggestiwa therapy wana disappear? Come back, our faithful listeners. Now, I've been your host, Amaroy, and our guest of the day has been Nasim. She's a psychologist and a founder of Hugs. And, I'm really grateful that you guys keep tuning in and we learn together. And your story, I want you guys to know where mnaweza pata Nasim, her social handle. So I'll need you to look at the camera. You tell us mahali wanaweza kupata. You tell them about your services. Kuna watu wana assume therapy inakuanga free ama counseling inakuanga free. So tell us kama yako pia ni free. So simply just tuambie where they can find you, your socials, where Hugs is located, how they can book appointments if at all they're interested in it. Yes.
So first you can find us online at hugs.co.ke. That is our IG, hugs.co.ke, Twitter, the same thing, Hugs Organization on YouTube, Hugs on LinkedIn, just type Hugs and then you'll find us. For booking sessions, I do offer sessions. We have different types of sessions. We have in-person sessions divided into two. I do home calls for underage kids and people old age that can't come to the office. Through the same in-person sessions, I also offer nature therapy, whereby we either go to a park and do the sessions there, depending on how comfortable the client is. We also offer online sessions. The office we use, it's in Thika Road. If you feel like Thika Road is too far, you can do online sessions. So for online sessions, they go for 1,500. For in-person sessions, they go for 3,500. For home calls, they go for 4,000 bob. Okay. Yes.
Now, for those who maybe feel it's a little bit too expensive, do you guys have offers? Do you have times during maybe a month we are giving free therapy this month? Do you have such sessions?
Yes, this month, being Suicide Awareness Month, we are offering free therapy sessions for suicidal cases only. By suicidal cases, I mean, allow me to just define
it's okay, take your time.
So when it comes to suicide is divided into two. There's the passive suicidal ideation and there's the active suicidal ideation.
Yes.
So active, I feel you remember it.
Yeah.
Yes,
but, yes. For the purposes
so
of
active is whereby you've thought of it before and you've thought of ways to do it. So online sessions that can't work. So I'm not doing for those ones, but for passive is whereby life is so hard that for a split second you're thinking it would be better off if you're not around. So those are the cases that we're taking, and you're booking those cases through our email, which is info@hugs.co.ke, and the offer ends the end of next month. So it's just this month and next month. Already there's a few people we are doing online sessions with, so you can take advantage of that. But
Yes.
again, only suicidal cases. So we rarely have free sessions apart from when we have events, and then we can do some kidogo, PFA, psychological first aid for people on ground and everything. But we can link you up with toll-free numbers for free therapy. I don't know if people knew this. KNH also offers free therapy sessions for people under the age of 25. Mathari offers the sessions at 500 bob. So for youths, if you feel like 1500 is too much for online, you can just walk in at Mathari and get the one for 500 bob. Yes.
And now, from that, me, I'm listening like an audience. Okay. So there are people who have an ideology that going to Mathare, you
The
are
stigma that comes
yes,
with
the
it.
stigmatization that comes with actually going to a mental hospital for
Sessions.
sessions. What can you tell them so that they could feel it is okay to actually go there? Si lazima kwe chizi ndio uende huko.
Imagine it's very okay to just go there. I actually used to work at Mathari too, so it's okay to just walk in. I feel like some of these fears, they don't come from people, they also come from us. Ourselves, whereby we feel like I'm a niko cheesy ukweli and whatever. So I feel like just funga too much so you walk in. If you need the help and you can't afford, private therapy and everything, there's no shame. You don't feel ashamed when you're going to Mathari. I don't know if you know they have dental services and everything.
I have no idea.
Like it's just a hospital. You can walk in for your dentals and everything. So people don't feel ashamed kwenda kungolewa meno Mathari. So mbona unasikia ashamed kwenda sessions Mathari? You get, people don't feel ashamed when they go to KNH for other medical issues. So why would you feel ashamed walking to the psych wing for therapy sessions and everything? So
it makes me remember there is an interaction I once had with a friend. I think when you see some of your contacts wanna post something, it's like a call for help, and then you decide to DM them and you ask them, have you considered therapy, or have you considered seeing somebody? And then they're like, yeah, I actually need help. And then you ask them, can I plug you to somebody who can actually help you go through this? Nikachwa on read. So I'm trying to what can you tell such people when you wakishasikia tu wamesuggestiwa therapy wana disappear?
I feel like we still have a long way to go when it comes to sensitizing therapy. And therapy is really amazing. Weird enough, I also go for therapy. Like, I also have a therapist. As much as I'm a therapist, I also see a therapist. It doesn't mean therapy is only for people who have psychological issues. It just means there's certain things in your life that don't make sense, and you want them to make sense. So you listen in to a professional to help you make sense of these things. So think of it as a tangled, rope. So they're just helping you to untangle it and everything. Remember what I told you. All these things, we have them within us. It's just that we are not able to reach them. So they just help highlight them. So there's no shame in going for therapy whatsoever. In matter of fact, you're just making yourself better. So yeah, I feel like people need to embrace more self-care and understand that therapy can also be part of self-care. And for such people, never force them. As long as you've given highlighted and everything, don't. Even for me, when a client calls, I follow up once, I follow up twice. I don't follow up more than twice because I want them to feel comfortable to come. They shouldn't feel like
you're forcing it down their throat.
Yes. So whenever they're ready, they'll come. And trust you me, they do get ready when things, hit the fan. Yes, exactly. So just give them time. give them time, talk to them. Also, you can, as a friend, you can also be there for them kidogo, just ask them there's nothing wrong with asking someone, how can I help? And when you're asking that question, make sure you know how you can help. If you can't help financially, tell them, how can I help other than financially? I'm here for you. Like, let me know what type of help you want. So if it's listening, they'll tell you, I want you to listen to me until I'm ready for therapy. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
the insightful discussion that we've had. I hope next time when we call you upon, you will respond to our call, and we can have these conversations, because I believe that it can never be enough emphasis on mental health, especially the fact that most people are still, ignorant about these things.
Agreed.
Yeah, I feel like the more we talk about these things, we normalize talking about these things. Hata mtoto akizaliwa kesho na grow asikie we are talking about these things, at least we will raise a society that is mentally aware yenye wanajua. So thank you so much for blessing our studios, and I hope next time tukisema we have this slot on radio, we would want to maybe host you again to see what you have to say about this. Hauta to turn down. I hope so. So, asante sana. For our listeners, remember our number is 0742609574. You can call, text, or WhatsApp us on there. If you need therapy sessions, if you need the counseling and all, reach us to us and we will plug you to somebody. Hata kama unaogopa the cost and all, we have other options where you can be guided through.